And we have the same rules and regs and requirements, the same license type as the big facility, right? We're going to match them apples to apples. But you can, and I guess that's the difference between what assisted living is and what a nursing home is.
Welcome to Real Estate Hustlers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appleman, founder and CEO of Appleman Capital. Today we are joined with Brett Chotkevys, innovated the assisted living sector with his memory care mansion, blending small-scale home illness with full-scale services, achieving significant profits with minimum effort. He now teaches his business model to aspiring entrepreneurs. Brett, we appreciate you coming on the show today. If you could let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. And you got my last name right. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, like you said, we are in the assisted living space. My wife and I, we own Platinum Resort Assisted Living and Memory Care. We're in Georgetown, Texas, a little bit north of Austin, and we run this. Really, it's a real estate company, and it's an operations business. And we've been running this for a few years now, expanding our business. And really, our niche is we build new construction mansions. And I call them memory care mansions because really our whole niche is people are at the very end of life, 90 years old, 95 years old, needing full care and assistance. But instead of being in the big smelly facility or in the little dinky RAL, we custom build these mansions and we charge a very high end product. And we have all the services that you could get at one of the big 4-story buildings, but in these, custom designed 16-bed mansions. And so it's a very unique little space in the market that we have carved out that is really solving the problem of how do I provide quality end of life care and not be around 100 other seniors in a post-COVID world.
Yeah, that's very cool. I've done quite a bit of research on RELs as far as just the model in general. There was a point in time where we were going to be getting into it, but we just pulled back because of the really the need for skilled labor. What has been some ways that you've overcome the skilled labor challenges?
That is actually the hardest part of this is the caregivers. But I guess want to address the part where you said the skilled labor part, because honestly, we're hiring people that don't need a lot of skill. They just need heart. They need passion and love. And this is kind of where the misconception comes in with this space. When you're talking assisted living, you think medical, you think nurses, doctors, things like that. Our business is actually non-medical, meaning
Okay.
on my insurance, on my license, I don't have to have any type of medical personnel. We're technically just doing ADLs, which is activities of daily living, right? We're kind of like a preschool for 95-year-olds, right? Like nothing too special there, right? But what we do is we create the building, the place for all of the medical personnel to come into. So I think that's one of the huge advantages of what we do is I can essentially offer all of the care and amenities of the 100-bed facility. And those 100 beds, they have nurses on staff and they have all sorts of activity directors and all those kind of things, hospice and home health, all on their payroll, all on their license and on their actually, liability, their insurance and things. For us, we don't have any of those. I just pay a manager, caregivers, and a chef, right? That's my only people. They're non-medical, and my license is non-medical, but I provide the building, the location for all of those home health, hospice, like dentists, doctors. Everyone comes into our mansion and sees our grandmas, and they pay, usually through insurance or it's state funded on, hospice, home health, that kind of stuff at the end of life. But it really allows me to simplify things. And I'm really just looking for stable people who have a heart and a passion to love on people. And so we kind of really take our marketing towards our who we're looking to hire from that perspective. We've identified our avatar, not our customer avatar, but our employee avatar as someone who wants to, live and work with a purpose. And so we search for those people. And really, if you find a young mom who has a heart to love on people, it's kind of simply just like being a mom.
Yeah, and I think the assisted living, that's 24/7, 24 by 7, and then you have to have somebody there that's able to step in, like a nurse. I think that there's definitely different models, and your model is the least, as far as being heavy on staff needs, heavy on regulations and restrictions. Is that right or no?
No, no, not exactly. So our license type, our model is it's very much end of life. It's memory care. It's full. You're there as your last stop. You're moving in for the last few years of life, and you're going to pass at our mansion. And we have the same rules and regs and requirements, the same license type as the big facility, right? We're going to match them apples to apples. But you can, and I guess that's the difference between what assisted living is and what a nursing home is, because a nursing home, it has the word nurse in it. By definition, it has to have a licensed nurse on staff, certain amount of hours, a week, where you can work the system, so to speak, and be in a lower level of license type, lower liability, and bring in those outside service people that are not on your payroll.
Okay. Okay, that's a strategy then. That there are third party contractors and they come in and treat the patients on really the patient's behalf. You're just providing the real estate and the facility, and they're their own operator. Are you all the operator as well?
Yeah, so my wife and I run it. We have two managers that are there, every day, running the day to day portion of it. So we are ultimately in a position where really we're just working 2 to 4 hours a week now. We built the structure. It was the first 6, 12 months was there every single day building the system, but after that, being able to pull back. And, I think that's the big distinction you had mentioned, looking into some of these smaller, RALs and that kind of model. We only do a luxury 16 bed. That's our only way we'll do it. Because ultimately, I don't see a way to be profitable and to pull yourself out of the day to day operations from a numbers perspective if you have 6 or 8 or 10
Yeah.
beds. We want to be north of 100K a month in income, right? We're charging about $8,000 a month times 16 grandmas, and we're well over 100 grand. I can pay, two managers a great salary to handle all the drama for me. I have 24/7 caregivers, two of them awake all day long, plus a chef. And there's still the numbers are there to be very, very strong and have life changing cash flow.
Yeah, very cool. So how does the business generate over? I think it's 500,000 a year is what I see in your bio. Is that correct?
Yeah, so not income and profit.
Okay, profit.
So
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Dang.
exactly. Because we push over 100 grand a month in income, and then our expenses are roughly about half of that. But ultimately, yeah, that's why I'm a huge proponent for this model, and I don't see anybody else talking about it. Everyone talks about, hey, go buy a 4 bedroom house, convert the garage, have 6 beds. You'll have income of 30 grand. My labor is more than 30 grand. Like, you can't run a great business on 30 grand of income, right? But on 120 grand of income, you can run the best of the best. You can compete with the big facilities. And there's no reason why the families, the POA, when they're touring 6 or 8 different facilities, wouldn't come to my mansion, because I have all the care and amenities. There's private rooms, private bath, a chef, a salon, hospice, home health, everything, right? Everything you can get at a 100 bed. Wouldn't you rather have it in 16 bed? So this
Yeah.
niche, I think, is unique, and really, I just want to tell people, like, hey, here's another way, because I did that 6 bed model, and man, I broke even on my best month, and I'm like, I wanted to be able to scale this. I wanted to do something in real estate that made a difference and help people, and I couldn't take care of my family doing that.
Talk to us about how you got into this, because I think your bio is it's cool. You've done a lot of work in real estate, and then you finally came to this. So tell us a little bit about like the real estate transactions that you've done too.
For sure. So, I started in college, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, was like, oh my gosh, like, I need to get out of the system here. I need to create cash flow. My wife and I both quit our jobs, burned the boats, went all in, and we started flipping houses, and we did pretty well. We built a company up. We flipped several hundred houses in the first few years, but it was still just like a every month, right? Just marketing machine, spending so much money, deals falling through, and then the market shifted, and it got really hard to get deals. And I'm like, okay, well, I've learned all these skills. I know real estate. I know raising money. I know construction. How can I transition this? Because I really wanted just one big deal. If I can get one big deal a year that was a multi-million-dollar play, like that's what I was looking for.
Mhm.
And so I heard about this, RAL space, and I was intrigued by it, and I spent years kind of researching it and got some training on it, on the kind of the smaller model, and I just couldn't make the numbers work. So I was a little bit discouraged, but then like kind of school of hard knocks. My wife and I were just, hey, how do we do this? Right? How do we knew we wanted to do bigger. We needed higher income in order to have the expenses and have the profit. But ultimately, the biggest hurdle was usually the zoning, right? Like taking a house, you're at residential zoning, going and talking to the city, they'll just be like, nope, like, hey, you can do this, but 6 beds if you're lucky, right? Like, so then it came back to, okay, well, why can't I just find the appropriate zoning type, right? Whether it's commercial or mixed use or multifamily. If the city allows the big facilities to come in and build 60 beds, why can't I come in and build 16? And so that actually kind of took me a while to figure this whole idea out and put it all together. But we ultimately used our real estate knowledge to be able to come in and say, okay, well, let's carve out this niche and say, here's what we want to do. We just want to build new construction in a zoning type the city will allow, have the same type of end of life license type that the big smelly facilities have, be able to charge a competitive price. Like I want to match what's the new construction big 4-story assisted living, right? What are they charging? That's what I want to charge, because I want no reason why daughter, when she's touring that, can't come over and say, well, they can do all the same things. It's more intimate. There's only 16. Like, why wouldn't I go over there?
Yeah, yeah. There's a massive difference just with comfort alone. You're not you got I'm assuming backyard areas to sprawl out, get outside, and just different areas in general. There's a night and day difference. There's a premium to charge. There's definitely a premium, but there's people that are willing to pay the premium to have that experience as well. What
Yeah,
are some
absolutely.
strategies that you all do to keep the beds filled, keep everything just flowing? Because without one, I mean, you got to offset income and expenses, so you got to keep it filled.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's so important for this model, and so many people struggle with this space. And honestly, like your product and your service are part of this. You have to have a gorgeous product, and I think we are ahead of the curve of where the market is going. 10 years ago, it was very commonplace when mom needed something. Okay, yeah, her only option was the 60 or 100 bed, and they were all pretty like single story kind of gross. And then, it started shifting. They started building these newer assisted livings that are prettier, but still big and smelly. So it's pretty easy to recognize people want smaller, they want more intimate. And so just designing that and being able to say based on my product, okay, I can have all the care that mom needs at end of life, right? Everything she's going to want, I can do it all the way till she passes. But in the building being more private room, chef, salon, more intimate, kind of a more neighborhood feel, that product, honestly, like if you have that and you have great care, brings in so much of our residents. And ultimately, as I'm continuing to grow my business and move to different markets, I am not concerned necessarily about where is all the population of seniors that I need to like find new seniors from their own home. Because realistically, I'm not taking seniors from home. Most of the grandmas that move in are coming from the big smelly facility. It's a funnel of, they move into the apartment, right? The independent living apartment, and then they decline a little bit and they move to assisted living, and then they decline a little bit more and they move to memory care. So there's all these different steps as you increase in age and decline and need more care, that the daughter is always reconsidering, hey, should we move mom now, right? This thing happened now. So our strategy, I call it actually the strategic 20, and it's really kind of like the Dream 100, if you've heard of that. But I take this influencer type strategy, and because everything in this space is based on referrals to fill your beds, right? It's not PPC, it's not direct mail, all these other things that you do in real estate. It's really just who has your leads. And most of it is people in the industry. It's the home health people, the hospice people, the independent living people. So my wife and I, we strategically build relationships within the industry who every time mom declines, every time she needs more care, they know and trust Platinum Resort. That's my assisted living. And they are constantly referring. So we have like 3 new leads every single week. We have 2 new tours every week, and we have a wait list of over 50 people. And honestly, like, this is such a stable income stream because I have 16 rooms, 16 grandmas and grandpas. They're there for like 2 to 5 years, right? Like I have to make a new sale like 3, 4 times a year. It's very, very consistent income. I know every single month how much I'm going to make. I know all my expenses, and my profit is almost the same every single month.
Yeah, yeah. Especially you bake in the vacancy factor and your relationships. Almost are waiting for you to have an opening too, because there's certainly a demand to live in your facility. Tell us a little bit about the outside, like what to expect. Is it all modern? Is it what is your model for the facility itself?
Yeah, for sure. So I they ultimately they look like, well, let me back up one sec. So we're building this, our new project is we're building a neighborhood. And so we built one of these, and I'm like, okay, well, how do I create scale here, right? Like, okay, I don't want to have a facility next to another facility, right? Like, it would be better if I just had a little pocket neighborhood of mansions. So we bought 8 acres. We have our own private road. You turn in, and it's like there's not a red curb and a parking lot, right? Like I have a street with 4 mansions on it. You drive in, you're like, dang, who built this BA like little neighborhood for these people, right? Like I want you to turn in and not think assisted living. I want you to think like a bunch of rich people live here, right? Like,
Yeah,
except it's just a bunch of grandmas, right? Like, that's what the outside looks like front yard, driveway. It just looks like big mansions. They're 10,000 square feet, and they're not like 15 feet apart from each other. They're 55 feet apart, right? Like they're have like their own like 1 or 2 acres per property. So that's what we designed. And on the inside, everything's all ADA. Everything is very practical for care and end of life. We have large size rooms. Everyone has their own private bath, and we carved out like a library room and a garden room, and it's a ton of natural light, just floor to ceiling windows, like 15 feet high of glass walls and everything. Cause again, the grandmas are inside most of the day, right? To bring in all that natural light. And ultimately I want it to look like a boutique hotel. I don't want it to look like a hospital or like a hotel. And so I spent, a couple years just trial and error, just playing with different designs before I actually sent it to our architect to build out. And really, that's really my intention there.
that's great. So the zoning, is it still residential, but is it residential or like
Mhm.
commercial multi-use?
Yeah, so it's different city by city, but no, specifically, it's not usually residential. 95% of cities are not gonna let you do what I do in a residential zoning area. You can't just go buy vacant land next to a couple houses and build
Right.
one of these, mansions. So again, I go on the front side doing my due diligence, and I ask, like I pulled my comps. I know what the other assisted livings are. I know what zoning types they are in. Like, hey, I see these are some options. What other options do I have? Can I do R4? Can I do mixed use? Is there unincorporated areas? Can I buy agricultural land and maybe have a special use permit for these kind of things? And that's what I kind of do on the front side before I make an offer on any property.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the neighborhood, the area, as far as mixing it in with putting mansions in with commercial, but I'm sure it looks killer. I mean, it's if you're pulling up to large looking houses that are mansions, but that's incredible. And I would
Yeah.
say that the depreciation is pretty good too on these mansions.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You said depreciation or appreciation?
Well, both. I mean, depreciation, and I think depreciation is actually it passed the Senate last night to where 100% depreciation is coming back.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so because you get the fixtures as well as the facility itself on depreciation.
Yeah, for sure. There's 2 huge sides to the financial, game here. Is one is the cash flow. If you're north of 100K a month, then you can really do well, and you can provide, all the best care with the expenses and easily hit 40 grand a month. So that's really my goal is I wanna make 500 grand a year, which is $41,666 a month, and work 2 to 4 hours a week. And this model allows me to do that. But that's monthly cash flow. But then ultimately, we're building these mansions at about 2.5 million per. And appraised value on after they're completed is about 5.5, and that's just for the real estate. Then you add the business on there that's cash flowing these amounts, and you add about another $1 million for the real estate and business together. So every time I go build one of these, I'm literally setting myself up with like $3-4 million worth of an exit strategy that on day one, once it's completed. Then again, I'm going to hold these for 3, 4, 5 years and then sell, and really create a one and done type of deal. That was kind of my goal. How do I get out of this flipping houses, always needing new deals kind of thing? How do I build something cool, do something that helps my city? I can kind of invest with a purpose, and then whenever I want to exit the game, I can literally like sell everything and have way enough money to be able to like, hey, we are out, we're going to do whatever we want now.
Yeah, no, that's great. You must have a pretty good GC if he's getting it. If you're getting it half off of market, that's awesome. That's a
Yeah, with
huge
the
win.
economy of scale there, right? Like, because 10,000 square feet, they're all bedrooms, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's only one kitchen. It's just walls and floor and stuff, right? So there's definitely an advantage there on the size of these buildings.
Yeah, for sure. So, how do you help people start their own memory care mansion?
So if someone's interested in this, I would say start by going to my podcast, Assisted Living Investing, my YouTube channel there. And really my goal is to provide as much free information as I can. When I got into this, there was really just the two options of here's the big smelly facility and here's the little dinky RAL. And I didn't really like either of those, right? I couldn't put the pencil to it and say, okay, here's how I can do this kind of deal. So really, I'm just sharing as much, like literally everything I'm doing as I'm going through building my own business, just documenting it. So I think there's a ton of free information there. I actually put together a free course. It's 17 modules that kind of paint the whole picture for people so that they can say, okay, here's a realistic path. Because if someone would have said, hey, Brett, just go outside of residential zoning, go talk to the planning department, go, get a custom home builder, design this thing and build it and like fill it up. And you'll have a multi-million-dollar play and have huge cash flow. I'm like, fantastic, cool. Thank you for telling me that. Like, but nobody said that. It was like, okay, yeah, here's a 4-bedroom house and go convert the garage and then struggle. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
that's not going to work for me.
that sounds about right. That's usually how it goes. And it's like once you know, and you'll never go back. So that's
Yeah,
with
exactly.
real estate. The more you buy, the more you can buy. So it compounds, but kind of you got to cut your teeth before you get there. What is one of the most common things that you see beginner investors in this space trip up on and maybe have misconceptions on?
They do a deal that's too small.
Yeah.
I always go back to this. Grant Cardone talks about the biggest variable in apartment investing is the number, right? The number of doors. It's so similar with assisted living. The number of beds is everything. Your people think that, what I do is, 16 is too big, right? I want to start small. I'm going to start with an 8-bed or a 6-bed, and then I'll get my feet wet. I'll learn it. And then I'll do a bigger deal after that. And really, you won't. Like I started with a 6-bed and a 3-bed, and it was just like years of frustration and like, you just want to quit, right? You think to yourself, like, this niche doesn't work. I just wasted 3 years of my investing journey. Like, this is stupid. And so I would just want to tell people up front, like, don't do a bad deal just to learn how to do a good deal, right? Like, just do the right size deal that actually makes sense. If you can put all the numbers down on paper and it's profitable, great, do it. If you put it all down and it doesn't make sense, then don't do that kind of deal.
Yeah, that's huge because scale is truly everything. I know the ones that we were looking at were it was like eight beds, 2 ranches.
Mhm.
Um, it would have been very tough, and I'm glad that we decided not to move forward because we would have been like we'd have started too small, and then ultimately your first deal is the most important deal because you prove to yourself that it works, or you prove to yourself that it doesn't work when maybe it doesn't work. You just started too small, so
Right.
it's
But then the
awesome.
other component of it is like it's not like it's just real estate. There is a business side to it. There's
Yeah,
literally 90-year-old ladies that are depending on you to make sure caregivers are there, to make sure the food's good, to make sure the medications are ordered. Like, you can't screw that up. And if you literally are doing a deal where you can't afford someone with experience to come run this for you, then you're kind of hitting a double whammy there.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception in real estate in general. Whether you're flipping houses, whether you're buying a rental, there's an operating business underlying everything. So if you don't have experience running a business, giving direction, just knowing how the financials should be, then I think that you should put yourself in the presence of someone who has and gain that experience. Even if it's property management, even if it's shadowing another operator who's doing what you're doing, shadow yourself, get yourself in your room, and then learn versus going out there and jumping on your own. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of being successful in real estate and in business in general. Just getting that experience.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like, my wife and I jumped into this, and we had no medical experience, no assisted living experience, right? Our background was just real estate, but we had the numbers to be able to afford somebody who had 20 years of experience. We brought this person on, gave him a profit sharing agreement, and said, "Hey, I want you to run this for me." But that was at a luxury 16 bed where I had a high income. If I didn't have that, like, man, we would have been trapped in our business working every no call, no show shift.
Well, at the same time, though, you also had business acumen. You were operating a business with your other real estate ventures too. So you
Mhm.
bring that along. You plug in the knowledge, and it's just like any other business. You have income, expenses, but you gain that experience through doing it. So it's you weren't, but you bring on the expert that has the industry specific knowledge that definitely boosts you forward for sure.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
cool. Definitely appreciate the insights, man. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they reach out?
You can find me, I guess first start on our social, right? The podcast, the YouTube. Our website is palm.university. Hit there. There's a whole bunch of free training and downloads. As much as my businesses I can give away for free, I'm going to put on there. I think that's a perfect place to start.
Awesome. Very cool. I definitely appreciate you coming on, sharing your wisdom with us, and I look forward to following you. Definitely appreciate it. We will certainly talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate your
Thanks,
time.
Brett. Bye.